All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Anchor Up podcast. Today we are very, very fortunate to be joined by the talented and very, very successful Lucas Thomas. Does mortgage, real estate, investing. What don't you do?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't cook. That's probably the one thing that I like. If I find more free time, I will work on my cooking. But that's like the one thing I don't do is cook. So
There you go. Well, we appreciate your time today. We know that you're a busy guy. Why don't you just do us a favor, like everybody else that comes on the AUR podcast? Just kind of give us a background about yourself, kind of what you did early on in your career, and then what kind of got you to where you're at today.
okay, perfect. So I'm Lucas Thomas of RHM Financial Planning. I got my start when I was in college. I started as I didn't want a real job. I've never wanted a real job, so in college, I decided what's the best way not to have a real job. And then I started doing contracting work as a copywriter. And literally all I did was just read a book that just said how to become a copywriter. Read the book, started charging $35 an hour, and then I never looked back. So then, and then as I became more successful, I started charging more an hour. I'm like, oh, I'm going to charge $50 an hour. And then I think when I stopped doing copywriting, I was at like $100 an hour, and I was like, I don't want to work. I don't, and it's just, you wake up one day and you're like, you know what, $35 just isn't enough for me to wake up today. So then by the time I was done with copywriting, I was making about $100 an hour. Then one day, one of my friends was like, hey man, you should become a real estate agent and do real estate because you can make four times the money with half the work. And I'm like, I like half the work with
Yeah.
four times the money. Those are good numbers. I like these numbers. So then I became a real estate agent. And then as a real estate agent, I specifically just like I didn't do what normal agents do, which is they did retail. I immediately went into investing. My very first property I ever bought was a wholesale property. It was a condo that I bought for $40,000, and it was a meh neighborhood, and I pretty much had to. I bought the place, fixed it up, and then I started renting it for about $900 a month. So all in, I was in the property for about $45,000, and then I was making like 900. So I was cash flowing like $700 a month, and I was like, oh, that's really good numbers. And then before I was done with college, I was actually a live-in landlord. So I bought a house as well. And I rented the other, it was a 4 bedroom house, and I rented the other 3 bedrooms in that house. So basically, I was a live-in landlord renting my other 3 bedrooms. I became a real estate agent doing the landlording, and then pretty much once that started becoming successful, I couldn't tell my investors to sell their properties because why would you kill the goose that lays the golden eggs? Because that's your cash flow, that's your income. Why would you sell that? I mean, a big pile of cash is cool and all until you don't have a big pile of cash anymore. So
Especially today, that big pile of cash,
exactly,
it goes away as soon as you go to the gas station.
exactly. And that's why I tell everybody. It's like that's why I tell everybody. It's like a big pile of like $1 million sounds like a lot of money until you realize if that's the only thing you got to live on for 10 years. Well, congratulations. That's $100,000 a year for the next 10 years. And depending on your spending habits, that 100 grand might be gone in an instant.
Yeah.
So but with cash flow, it's there every month. You know what I mean? Because I own a bunch of rental properties, and I get my cash every month. I get my Zells, I get my Cash App, I get my Quick Pays. I get all that stuff in my bank account. And I go, man, I'm glad I don't have to worry about actually. I don't have to worry about you know income because it's there every month. But that's what I. So then I became a mortgage broker because I couldn't morally tell my clients to sell their cash flow. So then we did cash out refis. So that when they dropped all the rates, we were able to cash out refi all their property because it all tripled in value. So then we pulled out a bunch of money and then we started buying more rental property. So that's pretty much how I got my start. And uh, in the world of financial planning was I was helping people purchase all these rental properties, these cash flow properties. And then just in dealing with investors, I eventually just started hanging out in all these investor groups. And 10 years later, here I am now. So,
Yeah, so it sounds like you went from buying like rental properties and investing for yourself, then going into being a real estate agent for a bit with investors, and then your final destination was financial planning. So, do you feel that financial planning is like the piece that wraps that all together and helps people the most, or is there any one of those that you like doing more than another? Because I'm sure you still do them all today, right? I mean,
yeah, I do them all today. So financial planning, it's more of a, because what I do in real estate doesn't exist. There isn't like I used to call myself an investment agent or an investment realtor, but like that term doesn't actually exist in the real estate like existence, right? You either whenever anyone thinks of a realtor or a real estate agent, they think, oh, hey, the person who's at open houses, those kinds of people. No one thinks, oh, this guy buys fourplexes and gets like he buys slumlord properties and then he has to. It takes a year or two to fix them all, but then I have to do evictions and I got to do this round robin. I got to use all this strategy, and then we got these big piles of money, and then I got to fight contractors every day. Like it's a pretty it's a pretty aggressive business. But the thing was is I've been an investment agent, so the hardest part of explaining people what I do is there's such a idea in people's heads of what real estate agents do that it was always a challenge trying to explain to people. It's like, oh no, I do this. And it's like, oh, well, that's not what most agents do. And I'm like, well, I don't do what most agents do. I do like this. I do all these different niches in the real estate industry. So
yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like you're a project manager, basically, right? You help the investor find, and then they purchase, and then you go through the journey with them to get everything done. So you're more of a in it for the long haul partner with people versus being an agent, because a traditional real estate agent, they meet you and they'll help you buy a house, and then reality is 9 out of 10 realtors forget who that person is and they don't stay in touch with them, and then the statistics of it is hardly anybody ever transacts with the same realtor for every purchase that they do. So you're different there, where you're establishing that relationship and bond with an investor or a client, or even yourself, to be able to find these properties, make them into money makers, and find the right deals. Real estate agents have investor clients, but those investors also go to a whole bunch of other realtors, whoever will give them the best deal. So yeah, you're unique because you're taking the entire journey, because you just said talking to contractors, helping them through eviction processes. You're like a full service
yeah,
investment realtor basically, which doesn't exist.
yeah. Well, it was actually really fun for me because that's what I used to tell people. Because what I used to do is I used to help them find them, help them buy them, and I actually used to own a property management company, so I used to manage them too. And then I would even track the market and be like, hey, your property doubled in value. You want to do a cash out? And they would say, oh hell yeah. And then then what we would do is we'd cash out and then we go buy something else. And I'm licensed in multiple states now, so whenever we do these cash outs, so for example, I'm licensed in Wisconsin, Albuquerque, Indiana, and Arizona. So what happens is if one of your properties doubles in value, we do a cash out, and then we buy in a cheaper state like Wisconsin, like and then we can buy rentals in Wisconsin, and I'll do the mortgage on the deal. We just find a local real estate agent slash property manager. So like you were saying, like yeah, most of my relationships are 10 years old. Like I'm a lifetime agent. Literally, I have people I don't even work with anymore, and they literally will text me randomly and be like, oh hey Luke, what do you think about this market? And I go, oh yeah, no, I mean I don't like Florida. I think everything's too overpriced in Florida and the rents aren't high enough. But you know what I mean. But they'll literally text me. But I mean that's my thing is like because I was a property manager for so long for all these people. Like I'm their one stop shop, and that was why with real as you were saying with real estate agents, it's really tough for real estate agents because um, I'm I, I'm I've created like an expert system where people come to me for all questions, like like hell, I because now that I'm a financial planner, they even come for stuff that isn't real estate related. Like they talk to me about stocks, crypto, like everything in the financial sphere. So for me, I've always sort of done that, but now as a financial planner, it makes it makes a lot more sense with what I've been creating for the last decade. So financial a financial planner. So I've pretty much been a financial planner for the last 10 years, but it wasn't until like the last 2 years where I finally put the name to what I've actually been doing the last 10 years. So that was the journey that I went on. Was I've always been it was really funny. So when I was applying for my CFP, I told them what I was doing for the last 10 years, and they're like, "We're going to give you all 7 years of your financial planning experience because you pretty much have been a financial planner for the last 10 years." I'm like, "Oh, good. I'm glad after all this time there's an actual name for what I've been doing." So
Yeah, I mean that's
that was
true. I think that a
so
lot of real estate agents are kind of a financial planner, because I'm a licensed real estate agent in the state of Texas and Louisiana, so familiar with how the process works. But as I look around and learn more about what you've done, I mean, again, there's not much that's out there like that, because when you go become a brand new agent, you go into whatever brokerage A, B, or C that you decide to be a part of, the one that sold you the best Cadillac, but it's actually a Pinto, to go in and learn how to do the job and do all that stuff. Because the reality of being a real estate agent is, yeah, that company can give you the Cadillac version of training, but it takes the person to execute. And if you don't do that, or somebody's not holding your hand, that's why there's like huge washouts. So that's why real estate agents try to be an expert in everything. But what you did that's different, that I'm hearing, and what's interesting to me, is you started extremely young. Like you bought a place and started renting it. Okay, well, now I know how to manage property because I've done it for myself and I know how that works. Then you invested into property, and then you cash flowed that. So now, okay, I understand how to be an investor. What's next? Okay, well, let me be a realtor. So I'm going to do my own investing, but now I can reach out to people and help them on their investment piece. And then it's like, okay, what's next? Well, if I really want to help them, I can be a mortgage lender and help them cash out their house so that they can go get other rental properties and expand their portfolio. And then what's next from there is like, well, damn, let me put it all together and just be a financial planner, right? So it's that
yeah, that's
journey that
literally
you've
what
done
that's
is, it's one step at a time for you. A lot of real estate agents won't do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's my entire philosophy on life. I can sell anything, but I like to see that I want proof of concept before, and that's why my investors trust me so much because I don't present them with things that I don't have proof of concept of myself, right? I would never go to my investor with an unproven concept. I would invest my own money first, get proof of concept to be like, hey, look, I actually made money on this. See, look at that. And then they go, oh, wow, I'm glad you actually did all the work, did the legwork, paid the money, have proof of concept. Because like we just expanded into Albuquerque, New Mexico. I've never physically been in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Never been there. And we just bought about 50 units over the last year, right? Never been to Albuquerque. But I flew out to Albuquerque. I drove all the neighborhoods. I looked at all the fourplexes. I read all the laws. I talked to a bunch of real estate agents. I talked to a bunch of attorneys. I figured out the entire system. And then I bought a fourplex. And then I bought a fourplex. And then I started round robining out the tenants, and I was able to I was able to double the revenue within 6 months because I just did the research. The rent was too low, so therefore all I had to do was increase the rent to actual market rate rent. So then I was able to double the revenue within 6 months on just my fourplex. So then when I went to my investors, I said, "Hey, look at this thing I've already done. You guys know me." So then we were able to buy another 45 units within a year. And now I'm helping them go through the entire system in Albuquerque. And, but yeah, that's because I did all the research, I did all the legwork, and I cut all the mortgages on on all those deals. But it's great now because, and the funny thing is, I have the stable of contractors built out because, like I said, I have a property management background, so I'm always like, I have the stable of contractors. So if someone's like, "Hey, do you know anybody?" and I say, "Oh yeah, I have this electrician who I found through the grapevine," So I'm always looking for people for my systems. And Albuquerque, New Mexico is doing really, really well right now. Um, but like I said, it was one of those things. I've never physically been in that state ever. Never been to New Mexico. Never went to Albuquerque. And then within like 2-3 months, I'm like, yeah, I'll buy that. And then I bought one, and it worked out really well. And like I said, there was no at no point was I using puffery or overselling. It's like, oh no, look, here's actual numbers for my place. You want to buy? And then boom, done. No, it's not even a conversation at that point. It's not even an argument. It's just like, yeah, here's the numbers. Here's what I did. Here you go. Do you want that or not? It's like, yeah, let's buy two. One of my guys, he bought three within like 3 months. And I'm like, yeah, good job.
Yeah, there you go. Well, so that leads right into a couple of things I wanted to ask you about. And just reading before we connected, you have your financial planning, which you're doing with people now. And I noticed that you had two different acronyms in there that you had sent me. And I'd like to just go through both of those. The first one is your FIRE acronym, which, if I remember correctly, is financial independence and retire early. So, explain to me the conversation you have with your future clients or your existing clients or anybody that wants to learn what you're doing or get an idea behind it. Walk me through what your meaning behind FIRE is, because I'm sure a lot of people's is different. But just in talking to you for the last 15 minutes, you have a lot of success behind what you do. So, kind of walk me through your FIRE and what that means.
Well, FIRE is an online movement that started years ago, and then it always just sat right with me because I've achieved FIRE. Like, I could retire tomorrow. Well, actually, technically, I could stop this podcast and retire right now if I really wanted to. Um, but I don't because, well, it's like when I tell people, it's like retiring early just sounds so boring, like, just what do you do all day? I just sit on the beach and drink mimosas or whatever. I couldn't do that. So boring. I mean, hell, that's why I like property management, because there's always something going on. There's always a fire to put out. There's always something to do. But anyway, so that's my version of FIRE is just that financial independence portion. And that's why I always add the other acronym, which is the WIN acronym, because you can just retire whenever you want or whenever you need. Because for me personally, I probably will never retire. I'm gonna cut deals until the day I die, because that's just my nature. So, but I've achieved FIRE and I can retire whenever I want, but personally I never will. So that's just my personal um, interpretation of FIRE. Other people's, like some of my clients, I have a client, he's a security guard. He owns 8 units. He owns 8 units in 2 states. He's a security guard, right? So it doesn't come from money. I helped him house hack his first fourplex. So he used an FHA loan to buy a 4-unit apartment building. He moved into one of the units. I trained him to be a landlord. I said, "Hey, don't let anyone know you're the landlord. You're just tenant number 4. Don't tell anybody." So he lived in one of his fourplexes. He is actually kind of funny. He ended up getting forced into the hoarder property. So he bought a fourplex and there was a hoarder, and he ended up living in the hoarder property. So we got all these funny stories about how he had to like live with roaches and stuff. He's got all these roach stories, which always makes me laugh. But anyway, so he's a security guard. Bought his first fourplex with his FHA loan. Moved in one of the units. We were able to clear out all the roaches. We got everything nice and beautiful. He lived there for about 2 years, and then what happened was he moved out, and then his property doubled in value. So we were able to cash out refi, pull out like 200K. We bought another fourplex. And he still has like 100 grand left over, which he used to pay off his student loans and his car and pretty much everything else. And I think he still has like 50K left. But anyway, so security guard owns 2 fourplexes. And the funny thing about that guy is, like, security guards, it's one of those like paycheck to paycheck jobs, but he's like semi-retired. So he's like my personal favorite because he doesn't really want any more fourplexes. He doesn't want to deal with all that. His biggest thing is just he's achieved FIRE in the sense that he doesn't, if his boss wants him to do things he doesn't want to do, he literally just says, "Dude, I'm semi-retired. I make more money on my fourplexes than I do here. I don't really want to be here." Okay. So he'll quit his job and just go get a new job whenever he wants, because he doesn't have to rely on that paycheck to pay his rent. So so his version of, and he doesn't really want to own any more fourplexes. But it's funny to me because he's achieved fire and he's won already, because that's his version of fire. His version is, I just don't want to have to work, or I don't want to have a job where they can force me to do things I don't want to do. And so he's one version of a person I've worked with who's achieved fire. And his version is two fourplexes, and I can work when I want. If I don't have to, I don't have to work triple overtime just because I need this job. So he's one version of a person I've helped achieve fire. Another guy I have, he went from 0 units, now he owns 20 units. He's a working professional. He makes about 100K a year. Um, what he does is he buys one or two fourplexes a year. So as he makes his money, he buys one or two fourplexes. So, and the thing with him is he wants to maintain his lifestyle but eliminate his job. So for him, his entire purpose is, I'm going to get rid of my job, but I need something to replace that income. So every year he takes that excess money he has from that 100K and he buys a fourplex, or he buys a townhouse. He buys pretty much any piece of real estate he can, which then he can supplement his income. So when he hits his 40s, he's going to retire and he's done. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not sure what he's going to do after that, but that's his version of fire. So you got the security guard who, he's achieved his version of fire, which is, I can just do what I want. He could become a Walmart greeter and he can still live his life and just live the life he wants. I got my working professionals who, they buy properties because they want to retire early. And those are like two versions. And then, so those are the types of people I work with.
Well, I mean,
Um,
the cool part is that the fire method you have, the thing that I like the most about what you said is like it is open to whatever the individual's motivation is. So it's not just retiring early. What I like about what you said is retiring early doesn't mean like you put earlier, sitting on the beach drinking fruity drinks and being bored all day, especially for someone who's worked in the corporate world or you've worked your whole life. Retirement sounds great, but as soon as you get there, you feel like you have no more purpose because I've done all this stuff. Now I don't have anything to do. So retiring early could be just like you said. You have the security guard. He works a job not because he has to, because he wants to. It's just he wants to be there. That's the only reason he goes to work every day, which is the true definition of enjoying what you do, because he goes because he wants to. And so he can leave that whenever he wants. If he decided he wanted to travel for a year or he wanted to do whatever, like he could do it because he's independent enough to where he doesn't need to worry about it. So I think it's interesting that I was thinking being financially independent, retiring early is like, hey, here's this 10-step plan to show you how you can retire early, early, early. But I'm refreshed to hear that your version of this and how you help people is the complete opposite. You're not trying to get someone to retire and not work anymore. Retirement, and what I hear you saying is what it means to you, right? Retirement is doing what you love. Retirement is being happy. Retirement is going, this is all I want to do and I'm happy with where I'm at. Whereas I think of retirement as like, I was in the Navy for 20 years. Retirement means I don't have to go there no more. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
exactly.
But it's cool to know like retirement is like, it's an interesting way to think about it is what it means to you. So if you want to sit on the beach and drink fruity drinks, right, then you need to go make the money to be able to let you to do that. And if that's your idea of enjoyment or happiness or fulfillment from all the work you've put in, great. Like you said, most people that do what you do, they don't want to retire. It's not because they want more money. It's like they love doing it. It's like the thrill of putting out the fires or finding more things and learning new stuff and fixing the problem nobody else could fix or finding a solution to things that look to be difficult. That's that challenge that keeps you going. And I struggled a bit with that getting out of the Navy because I didn't have a structure or schedule anymore. It was always different every day. It was hard, but I always kind of knew what I needed to do. And then I get out of the Navy and I'm like, well, I don't have anything to do. I don't know what to do. And so now I'm kind of like you. I do a whole bunch of stuff. I own a t-shirt company. I do real estate. I did mortgage lending for a little bit. That really wasn't for me. I do
So
recruiting.
boring.
Yeah, but I do a couple of things that allow me to still stay connected with people. The one that I love the most, I'm the most excited about, is the t-shirt company that my wife and I started. We're building it. We're getting it from the ground and moving it up, and like it's starting to take off a little bit. And so we're excited about that because that could be something in the future that would be our fire, right? I don't have to work no more. I'm just going to go make these t-shirts, go to these community events, veterans functions, sell t-shirts, talk to people, hang out and drink a lot of beer. That's all I want to do.
Oh yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. That's your version of fire. But that's why I love the financial planning so much because I just don't believe in the I just don't believe in the idea, like, because everyone's just like, I want a mansion on the beach in Maui, and I'm over here like, no, 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 man. It's about accomplishing. It's about accomplishing, like, because not all of us are going to end up on Maui and the beach. Personally, I don't even, I'm not even a beach person. I'm a mountain person. I love
Yeah.
mountains. Like, I own a business down in Costa Rica because I'm actually flying down there in the next 3 hours. But I own a business down there, but it's on a volcano, and I got hot springs, right? And oh man, I love hot springs and I love volcanoes. And I bought a farm right next to the volcano, and I got my own private hot springs, and I love it. Love everything about it. But it's funny because it's like, but that's just my version of retirement is
Yeah.
because the reason I bought that was because most people don't realize it, but I'm actually a yogi, but I'm like the gruffest, most aggressive yogi you'll ever meet. But it's funny because when I finally quote unquote retire, I'm gonna retire on my Costa Rica farm, my 80 acres, and I'm building a yoga retreat out there. So like that'll be my retirement is just doing a yoga retreat on my farm down in Costa Rica with my private hot springs. Like that's my version of like and that's why I had to create that second acronym because fire, like you were saying, everyone has the ass idea of what fire like it means like I'm going to be super wealthy, I'm going to be a billionaire, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But I just don't. That's why I had to add the second acronym, the win, the
Hmm.
whenever I need or want. Like that's why I had to add the second acronym to create the version of the philosophy that I believe retirement is. It's whatever you want to accomplish. Because some people they don't want to be a billionaire. They don't want to be a millionaire. Hell, some of these people just want enough income so they can watch their children grow because they have extra $2,000 a month, and they don't have to take on extra hours and extra shifts. They can, like, for me personally, I love the fact that I can work from home because I get to watch my little baby grow. Literally, she's in the other room. She's 2 years old, and it's the best because I literally get to see her grow, millimeter by millimeter. It's it's
Yep.
it's it's my favorite thing in the world. And like a lot of people, they don't get to do that, and that's like another thing for me. That's another version of fire for people. It's like I just want to watch my kids grow. You want to be a billionaire? No. Do you want to be a millionaire? No. I just want enough money so I can work, and then I don't have to. Like if I want to go, like that generic movie trope. Like my dad didn't go to my recital. Well, guess what? I don't have that problem. I can go to anyone's
Yeah.
recital. I got all the time in the world. Don't I? You know what I
I
mean?
do
So
think that that kind of thing that you're talking about is a little over. I'll probably get roasted for it, but a little overplayed in today's society, right? What people have to realize, and all these movies you see about the kid whose dad didn't show up to the recital, and if the mom and dad are married still and all that, like bills got to be paid. It's not the world has shifted to a point where you can work at home in pretty much any job that you do. You don't have to go into an office, so you can be productive and make your hours. That is the one thing the pandemic did for everybody that helped, is like, oh, we can actually be productive at home. I don't have to see your face every day. You don't have to be sitting in front of me to be productive, which is good. But I was the same way when I was younger. Like it just brings me back a little bit when you're talking about, what financial independence or retirement or happiness means to people is exactly that. Like I thought making a ton of money, saving it up, and having money to where you didn't have to worry about it anymore was like what retirement was when I was 18 years old, joining the Navy. Now I'm out of the Navy after 20 plus years, and I've got two kids in college, and I'm watching them grow and succeed and do things. And it's kind of like turned around to like the why of what you do now is watching them succeed and grow, right? And then enjoying the ride that they're on, knowing that you're there to help them if they need it, which is a lot different than what I thought it was going to be when I was younger. And so I think that that fire and that win that everybody has, I think the biggest thing to remember is that is going to change through your entire life. It's going to be one thing one point in your life, and then you're going to get to another point in your life, like for you, and for instance, now that you have a young daughter at home, like growing and watching them do things and their first this and their first that becomes important. Whereas before, kids, what's the next destination I can go hang out for a week that I can just do it because I want to, like the priorities change. And so I think the biggest key to put out there overall really is that just because you think you know what you want today, that doesn't mean it's not going to change. But the good thing about your system is that it can change and evolve whenever you want, and it can be adjusted. The great part about yours is like, it is not like save this much money, put it over here, do this with it. It has to be like that. No matter what happens, you have to do this thing. People can adjust it whenever they need to do what they got to do, which is true independence, right? Doing what you want to do. And so that's interesting to know. But it's funny, like what I thought I wanted before is completely different than I want now. Like I'm working harder now than I did when I was in the Navy, and I'm enjoying it, which is weird.
Oh yeah. Well, welcome to my world. Like I work. I don't really think it's work anymore because
Right.
I enjoy it so much. It's not even really work because once you enjoy it, it's just like this is what I do, you know. Because
Yeah.
work is stuff you don't want to do. In my world, and the things I do, I just have so much fun because my wife, she literally always makes fun of me. She's like, "Oh, baby, you always complain." I'm like, "You should go get a corporate job," and I'm like, "Oh God, no, I would never ever have a corporate job." Even if I
Yeah. Those
did, they
are,
would have to pay me so ungodly amounts of money that they'd probably fire me within a year to be like, yeah, he doesn't want to be here still. Yet we're paying him gobs of money. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. But
yeah.
that's my version of fire. Is like yeah, like I said, it's like no, I don't want to do that. So, but yeah, I agree with you. It's like, but I don't view it as work because I mean, some of it's down and some of it's like down in the dirt, and you're kind of like, I really don't feel like doing that today. But and like I said, once you get to that point where you're well, it's your teaching thing, right? So it's like once you're in that whole system, it's like I'm gonna drink a lot of beer, and I don't like this is the happiest I've been. I mean, I'm working by the
Yeah.
technical definition, but
Yeah.
is it really work, my friend?
The best work is network. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Because networking includes hanging out, mingling, meeting people. As a veteran, I like to network and talk to a lot of veterans. So with our t-shirt company, we do a lot of markets and fairs and pop-up shops, and we're going to start traveling around the country to do stuff like that. But the most interesting part is sometimes not even selling something, just hearing somebody's story and talking to them. Like we've partnered with and connected with quite a few people just being at these markets where, okay, I'm talking to you today and you tell me that you're setting up an event, children's cancer. Like that's one that we had here recently. We hosted a barbecue cook off at a VFW, like we sponsored it. And we're there talking to the people, and these people are like, yeah, we're doing this concert for a child form of cancer. It's beatable as long as you find it, you know, early. And their daughter had it, obviously. This is why it's important for them to do this fundraiser. And we just told them, just standing there immediately, is like, we're here to help. What do you need? You need contacts? I got them. Do you need help sponsoring? We can sponsor. We'll make a donation. We'll come sell stuff and give you proceeds. Whatever it takes to raise money for that cause. And the people, what's interesting that I know nowadays is the reaction you get from people lets you know everything. Like they were like, we don't even know you. It's like it doesn't matter. You're trying to help kids. We're here. We're in it. And so like that why of just helping people in general, our main focus is veterans and first responders. But those guys have kids, those girls have kids, and they're going to grow up one day and they're going to do big things. And if you can't help them, then what's the point in what mom and dad is going to do every day, right? What's the point of the work they're doing for their kids to look up to them, for them to feel proud of the stuff that their mom and dad do? Is go to school and brag about them and talk about my dad and my mom. And, you know, they were just like, we can't believe it. I was like, well, that's what we're here to do. And we like doing that because coming from a military background and my wife working in the medical field, both of our roles was to help people. Military protects the country, and first responders and the medical, law enforcement, firefighters, they protect the community. Whether you're our tagline and what we are all about with our company is same flag, same oath. It doesn't matter which one you're doing. Everybody takes an oath to protect something. And so that's why I like going around and doing what I'm doing. And to your point, what you made earlier is it doesn't even feel like work. I'm hanging out. I'm having a good time. People are asking questions. I don't feel pressured to accomplish any one thing. Making connections and collecting business cards is a win. Selling some shirts, it's a win. Now, do we want to sell shirts? Absolutely. Do we want to grow our company? We sure do. But you're not going to do that overnight. It takes time. And so the
Yeah.
networking part right now is the funnest part.
Well, like I said, I mean, that's like the rule number one of real estate is you just gotta enjoy the grind, my friend. So I do a lot of classes and I do a lot of summits and I do a lot of speaking. So I call it the work, and the work in my definition is the inglorious grind of success. That, my friend, is the work, and
Yeah.
you just gotta fall, you just gotta get used to and fall in love with the work. Because if you don't, you're gonna end up being one of those 80% of the people who fail as a real estate agent. Because it's just like, what do you mean I gotta do that? It's like,
Yeah, for
I
sure.
mean,
Well, and it's
you gotta
also,
enjoy this stuff. If you don't enjoy it,
yeah,
not
how
gonna
many
do well,
people
my
told
friend.
you you were crazy? How many people told you what you're going to do is never going to work? How many people told you no? How many people told you there's absolutely no way that's ever going to be successful? That's why 80% quit, because they hear one time they can't do something. And then, unfortunately, in the world we live in today, I don't, I mean, maybe they do. My kids get taught this. I'm not really sure the statistics on it, so I don't want to speak for everybody on the planet, but I don't really see any more people telling you you can be whatever you want to be when you grow up. I'm more here, you should do that because you deserve to do it, right? Like an entitled kind of sense of how to do things versus work hard and earn it. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of that is because when you like podcasts or TikTok and social media and all these things that people can do nowadays that young people see a whole bunch of people on there making the videos and the content and they're successful because they know these people make a lot of money. Yeah, exactly. And what the kids don't realize, and I try to tell them, is like, yeah, it looks super easy. They just made a 30-second video, but it probably took them 2 weeks, 8 hours a day, recording it over and over again just to cut that 30 seconds that a million people watched. It's still work. It's not easy.
Oh, and then I mean, it probably took them like 3 or 4 years just to get to a point where they were actually break even to monetize the channel,
Right.
and then it's like, oh yeah, no, that's a 5 year plan. I personally can't do it. I could imagine being like, hey,
Yeah.
you want to hang out on video? You want to document every moment of your life for the next until you die? I'm like,
Yeah. No, thank you. I
I'm
think
okay.
it wouldn't be very interesting, and I'd probably get in a little bit of trouble for the stuff I did when I was younger. Thank God
Yeah. Well, it's
there was
funny
no
in my head.
Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff when I was younger.
Well, it's funny in my head. I'm like, dude, I can't wait till I'm dead. And people are like, oh, what does anyone know about Luke? Because I barely have I have like zero social media. And they're like, what the hell did Luke do in his life? And they'll just be like a blank. And they'll be like, oh, wow, nobody knows what Luke was doing. You know
But
what I
that's the
mean? Like
deal,
that.
right? Whenever your headstone is put up, you have the start date and you have the end date, and that dash in between is all the stuff that you accomplished. And the beautiful thing about the dash is everybody that you've ever met in your life and everybody that you ever influenced or been around or talked about, they all get to make the dash happen. So whatever that dash is to everybody else and they communicate, that's the beautiful thing about it, right? Like you have that space in time from birth to death. And a lot of people are going to have different opinions on that. And so, it's just interesting to see how the world works right now and how it's moving. I hope that that entrepreneur spirit comes back into America, right? Like and is encouraged because, you know, everything just seems to be a little bit different nowadays. And maybe that's because I'm becoming the old guy that stands at his front door with the screen open yelling at the kids to get off my grass or driving too fast down the street or whatever the case may be. Maybe because I'm getting to be into that age where I don't 100% relate to a lot of the stuff um, that you see people doing, and I'm trying to learn though, and so I have learned a little bit, and it's starting to make more sense to me. But there's still a lot that doesn't. And so I think kids today, they've got that advantage. They see everything instantly. There is no work for anything. You don't have to work to look it up anymore. You don't got to go to your parents' bookshelf and grab the Encyclopedia Britannica and look through 8 million pages of 10
Oh
different
yeah, those are the
volumes
good old days.
to find one answer. So through
I didn't
that
get a
research,
smartphone. I didn't get a smartphone until I was like 20, and
yeah,
it's just well, my daughter, she's 2, and I'm sitting here going like, no social media, no nothing. Like, I'm pretty much gonna. I already know I'm gonna be that dad who's gonna be like, you can have nothing. Like, here's
yeah,
power tools and dirt. Good luck.
yeah,
And it's like, but dad, I'm like, no, that's what your old man grew up with: power tools and dirt. Like, I
yep,
grew up on a farm in rural Pennsylvania, so I'm like, dirt, power tools, and brothers. Go wild. Like that that
yeah,
is that is your childhood. And it's just like nowadays, it's like you don't even have dirt anymore. No one goes outside because well, social media, it's like this giant monster that just eats everyone's time and stuff. And I'm over here going like, and I remember the good. That's probably why I'm so creative because I'm sitting here going like, how do I make fun with dirt? So you'd have to like bury hoses with dirt,
yeah,
and then you make like a volcano with the dirt, and you're like, really? I'm like, yeah, literally. My dad got a dump truck of dirt in the backyard, and and I'm talking like a ton, like a dirt, like I'm talking like a mountain of dirt, and that was pretty much my toy was hoses, power tools, and that giant pile of dirt, and that's all we would do for the entire beginning of my childhood. That was my existence. like that's the thing though. It's like how do I create out of all this? But yeah, I agree with you. It's
yeah.
weird
But I
how the
mean,
world's changed.
the term smartphone, everybody should put that into context though, because you said like I didn't get a smartphone till I was 20. Well, here's the deal. Yes, the phone is smart. Just because you can look it up and find the answer does not make you smart too.
Yeah,
It means that you have used the technology that's available to you to help you. But that's kind of like nowadays, I don't know, for me, for instance, starting a t-shirt company and learning how to do all this stuff because I didn't have all those distractions when I was younger, right? Because we grew up where there wasn't a lot of that. I was able to pretty much figure out what everything I needed to do just through trial and error. I figured it out. Like I could deduce and go through and okay, well that looks like it does this and that and it's good. But then the other day, someone was helping me, way younger, and I was showing him what to do, and it was almost like, do I need to find the YouTube video for you to watch to do this? Because like they couldn't follow, like you know what I mean. What's
that's so
simple to
funny.
me
It's
is
like
not
old
to them.
people in computers, but it's like the reverse. It's like actually that's actually pretty funny. Old people in computers, kids in plumbing. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like I don't understand how this plumbing works. I'm like, you figured out this computer, but you don't know how to change a faucet. Like,
yeah,
oh
which
man.
is crazy because it's the simplest thing to do, and that's kind of what's scary, but at the same time, it is
Is
kind of
that
funny.
funny though? It's like old
It's
people in computers,
but
young
think about it
people in
this way:
plumbing.
old people are computers because they have a lot of knowledge and
Yeah.
they've done a lot of things, and they didn't have the ability to just look at it right now and get an answer. Like knowledge took time way
Yeah.
back then, and now knowledge is instant. But still, I mean, I could look up the same term in 10 different places and be told 10 different things about what it is and doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily make it right. Now, to our credit, the dictionary, the encyclopedia, and the thesaurus could all have a different definition of the same term, and we just would never know the difference.
Oh yeah.
But when you would look at those things, they all lined up, right? So you were able to research and find. Nowadays, people throw whatever they want out there. And so there's sometimes it's confusing too to people.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's just interesting. Well, I
The
know that
world
you
of.
have to catch a flight because you have to go somewhere. I just want
Oh
to tell
yeah.
you, I appreciate your time. It was great talking to you. I learned a lot, and it's refreshing to see a different perspective on what retirement should mean to people. Really, it's whatever it means to you. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be nothing. It can be whatever you want it to be. So just as we're on the way out, share with anybody what you got coming up, if there's anything that people need to know, or if there's anything you want people to know about how to connect with you, or if they're looking for, assistance or help, and then we can go from there.
Perfect. Well, like I said, again, my name's Lucas Thomas of RHM Financial Planning. The RHM stands for Right Hand Man. So, Right Hand Man Financial Planning. Um, the entire philosophy of my business is, well, as my dear host has explained, is helping people achieve fire and winning. Like I said, working with a financial planner, the key here is to figure out what retirement means to you. Because, like I said, I don't live in a world where I just don't want to follow the Joneses. I don't want people to think I'm going to be a billionaire. I want to be a millionaire. No, I just want you to achieve the financial independence to live your best life by your own definition and not someone else's. That's my one of my biggest things in hopefully doing this podcast and me as a business owner and helping people in the financial planning sphere. If you want to come check me out, my website is www.rhmreal, as in like almost as in real estate.com. So rhmreal.com. Um, there you can find all my social media. Like I said, I have social media, but it's all business social media, so it doesn't really count in my opinion. So so you can find all my social media. You can get my email. You can get my phone number. You can get a hold of me through that channel. Um, if you're interested in my stuff, or if you actually want to become a client of mine, you can email me and we can go through the application process. Because there's a whole process. Because if you don't, because a lot of times with people is you have to have a certain amount of money or to even have an understanding of financials to start. So there's an application process when I work with clients. So yeah, get a hold of me through my website. That's usually the best way to do it. And I I hold weekly, or no, I hold bi-weekly classes. So every 2 weeks, I do classes from seller financing, wholesaling, fix and flips, buy and holds, landlording. Pretty much, I all the things I've done in the last 10 years. I teach other people how to do in my free class, just to get people interested in what I do and trying to achieve fire and winning. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I got to say from my soapbox. Thank you so much for having me on. I think this was a really good conversation. I'm really glad I came on the show. And if you have any questions for me,
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you for coming on. Um, it was, again, very interesting. I'm sure everybody that listens is going to learn a lot from you. And maybe one day soon we can do it again if there's more to talk about. Which there's always more to talk about when it comes to financial independence and retirement and things like that. But again, thank
it
you
doesn't
very
even have to
much.
be real estate. I mean, hell,
Yeah,
some of my friends, like, they own nail salons, and some of my friends, like, or your teaching business. It doesn't even have to be real estate based. It could be any business really. You just got to create it. You just have to make sure you make it an absentee owner business. So you just have to create. So before you start the business, you have to craft your entire business model around it being an absentee owner business.
yeah,
And that's another thing I help teach people is how do I create a business I don't have to live at, because
yep,
if you don't have to live at it, like, not that you can't live in it for the rest of your life. I have no problem with that. It's just if you don't want to live in it, like, if you get tired, you should have at least an exit strategy so you don't have to live in it and not have to liquidate it. You know what I mean? So that's
yeah,
that's another thing that I do as a financial planner is I help people build small businesses specifically as an absentee owner type business. Not that you have to be absentee owner. I just like to have them built that way in case you want to give it away to your children, but they don't want to take it over, because then at least you can keep the business, but then the money just goes to them. Or if you want to exit but you want to keep the income, but you just want to retire, or you want to start a new venture, at least then you don't have to liquidate your old ventures. And that is another thing that I work on with people. So,
well, awesome, man. Well, thank you so much again. I appreciate it, and have fun in Costa Rica.
oh yeah, hopefully I'm not late. All right,
There
thanks,
you go.
Matt.
Yep.